Tonight, a cry for help from the Afghan community.
I have a younger sister in Afghanistan.
Distraught family members plea for help at a rally in Brampton, calling on Canada to do more to bring their loved ones here from Afghanistan.
We might need some restrictions again.
The head of Ontario's Science Advisory Table says we may have to put the brakes on reopening plans. The warning as another member of the advisory table resigns. More on why. And
personally, I'm okay with it. I'm double vaxxed.
The Toronto Blue Jays are taking more steps to keep fans in the stands safe. The new rules they'll have to follow beginning in September. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. We begin in Brampton, where people gathered tonight to call on Canada to do more to help those in Afghanistan. Now, many in attendance have family members in the country, desperate to get out before it's too late. Our Dahlia Ashry was at the rally and has more.
It's very hard, it's very dangerous.
For Samaya Rahimi, it's a gut-wrenching time. She fears for her family's safety, unsure if they'll survive another day. 2 nights ago, the Taliban went to her family's home in Afghanistan.
They are trying to take that daughter, my younger sister. I have a younger sister in Afghanistan.
Pictures sent to her of a car blast that almost killed her brother.
And then put his car, bam, his taxi driver. But all of them is died. My brother, 3 people is not died. Taliban go to kill them.
So far, the Canadian government has evacuated on 13 flights close to 2,000 Canadians and Afghans from Kabul. Now, many of the people I spoke with here today are expressing concerns for their families' risks in Afghanistan, saying that they're calling on the Canadian government to do more and to act quickly.
Rasmeen Saeed is the organizer of today's event and the founder of Red Leaf Canadian Resettlement. So far, the organization has been in touch with over 200 people.
Help those that are applying and eligible for the Canadian Resettlement Program to get access to it, to get approval, and to come here.
The first demand is expanding the resettlement program to include ethnic minorities, including Hazaras, and those who are not traditionally eligible to come to Canada. The second one is providing humanitarian aid. The third one is proactive diplomacy, and the fourth is protecting the rights of women and girls.
The tragic scenes around the airport have transfixed the world. City of Brampton officials say they're ready to welcome Afghans into the city.
We are imploring the Government of Canada, whether it's the Immigration Minister, whether it's Foreign Affairs, whether it's the Ministry of Defence, to use every means at their disposal to make sure we get your loved ones to safety here in Canada.
We do have the capability of housing a lot of them. We do have vaccinations through Region of Peel Public Health.
For Rahimi, all that's left is a cry for help.
For all the world, please help. Help to Afghanistan people.
Dahlia Ashry, CBC News, Toronto.
Senior government officials said today that Canadian Special Forces have been working outside the confines of the Kabul airport. Now, the troops are operating beyond the airport in order to get more Afghans to safety on evacuation flights. Officials say the security perimeter surrounding the airport has become increasingly dangerous, but they say 436 people made it out of Kabul last night with Canadian assistance. They included Canadian citizens and family members, as well as Afghans accepted for resettlement here and in other countries. Canada will take part in an emergency G7 meeting tomorrow on the Afghan airlift. Well, turning to COVID-19 now, where cases in Ontario remain high despite a slight dip from Sunday. Another 639 infections were recorded today after more than 700 on the weekend. Now, as the cases rise, a frequent critic of the government during the pandemic has now resigned from the province's Science Advisory Table, suggesting it was holding back on releasing its latest modeling data that projects a grim fall. Lorenda Redicott reports.
He's criticized government policy during this pandemic, often over Twitter. That's where epidemiologist Dr. David Fissman announced he's resigned from the science table. Days earlier, he tweeted that the advisory table had projections for a grim fall it hasn't released, and raised questions about whether it's actually arm's length from government.
We're not only arm's length, we're actually completely independent from the government. To make that very clear, I can't be sacked by anybody there.
The advisory table's scientific director says an independent scientist recently did present projections to them. But he says their official modeling always relies on a range of sources. Plus, the volunteer members have been on a summer break. Dr. Peter Uni has also frequently criticized the government's COVID policy. 2 weeks away from back to school, he says the province may need to soon reverse some of its reopening.
Once we were in step 2, we actually didn't see exponential growth. And this gives you a hunch about where we need potentially to calibrate ourselves in the future. We might need some restrictions again that allows us basically to navigate the situation well until our children aged below 12 can get vaccinated.
That's as the numbers of people in hospital with COVID-19 climbed. Plus, cases have been rising and are way higher compared to last summer. The opposition blamed the Premier, whatever the issues at the science table.
But what I can tell you for sure is that Doug Ford has failed on every front to take the advice he was given. He walked us right into that third wave with eyes wide open, and he's walking us into this fourth wave.
A spokesperson for the health minister says the government is acting, pointing to vaccination policies for high-risk settings and continuing to encourage more people to get their shots. Though the Premier hasn't taken questions from reporters in weeks. It's unclear when the next modelling from the science table could be released. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
There's concern that a COVID outbreak in Durham region will continue to grow. At least 20 people have already tested positive after attending a basketball tournament in Oshawa from August 3rd to the 8th. Now, the region's medical officer of health is asking anyone who attended the tournament to get tested. And they're having difficulty contacting everyone affected because more than 7,000 people from across Ontario and other provinces were in attendance. Now, Toronto is changing its vaccination strategy. The city has closed 4 of its COVID-19 mass immunization clinics, and starting today, it's moving towards a hyper-local vaccine campaign to better reach the vaccine hesitant and people who may have had trouble accessing a mass clinic. Artalia Ricci explains.
The days of long lineups at mass vaccination sites are behind us. Now you'll be seeing more small clinics like this one.
Just going on vacation and it's the vaccine's mandatory. I just decided to just get it over with.
According to Toronto Public Health, there's been a dramatic drop in the number of people coming by those big clinics lately. 4 of them have now closed and more than 300 staff will be redeployed.
We do have now many staff who will be going to different mobile centers, really mobile clinics. These will be at schools, at hubs, at faith centers, sometimes at workplaces. We've decided to switch to a hyper-local mobile strategy.
Wood Green Community Services says it's a strategy that works. They've been partnering with hospitals, knocking on doors and having one-on-one conversations.
Between 20 to 30% of first dosers getting vaccinated. And that has been really encouraging for us to continue our hyper-local approach and in making sure that we make vaccines as barrier-free as possible.
On Sunday, Mayor John Tory said 75% of eligible Toronto residents are now fully vaccinated. But he says the milestone does not represent the end of the pandemic as cases of the Delta variant rise.
We do not want to go back to any kind of a lockdown. We want to be safe. We want people to be healthy. We want businesses to be able to employ people and to be healthy once again, and that requires vaccination.
The vaccine rollout will move at the speed of trust.
Dr. Andrew Bruzari says he supports the city's move to a hyper-local strategy, but also knows how complex it is to reach vaccine-hesitant groups.
To think it's a real shift in strategy if we're just going to open up clinics, which I'm not suggesting is happening, but if that was the approach, it may not be as effective. It will almost definitely not be as effective unless communities continue to get the resources and supports to lead these clinics and design them with people who are still having hesitancy in the type of questions and answers that they need met.
It was quiet at today's small city-run clinic at Gosford Public School, but those who have done this before know it takes time.
Personally, myself, an experience that we knocked on a door several times that people did not come for vaccines. And then we made the vaccine clinic available for a few days under the buildings. And then, long story short, they start coming.
A strategy that seemed to work for at least a few people today.
I was just going down somewhere else, and I saw the sign. So I said, you know what, let's go ahead.
The TTC and East Toronto Health Partners are also running a couple of clinics this week at Main Street and Victoria Park subway stations. Those will be running from Tuesday to Thursday. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
It's 2 shots or you're out at Rogers Centre. The Toronto Blue Jays today saying anyone attending its games beginning September 13th will have to be fully vaccinated or show proof of a negative COVID test. Our Greg Ross caught up with some Blue Jays fans to see how they feel about the move.
Fans who came to watch the Blue Jays tonight were not required to show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test, but many of them could.
Personally, I'm okay with it. I'm double vaxxed.
Today, the Blue Jays announced new guidelines for the team's final homestand of the season. In a statement, they said the Toronto Blue Jays will require proof of full vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test result for all fans, staff, and guests aged 12 and older entering the Rogers Centre beginning September 13th. These guidelines will be in place for the Jays' final 12 games of the regular season.
We got to get past this virus. There's only one way to do it. Get vaccinated and let's get back to normal.
For some, knowing that other people at the game will be vaccinated is a source of comfort. This man says he's been to games since the Jays have returned, and there's not a lot of physical distancing.
You're right beside everybody.
And to make matters worse, he says many are not following the mask guidelines.
Anybody that I'm sitting beside, their mask is usually down.
The Blue Jays are not the only sports team with a vaccine mandate. The Hamilton Tiger Cats also announced that fans will now need proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test. Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment also has similar mandates with its teams, including the Maple Leafs, Raptors, and Argos.
There's a lot of other venues and concert venues, whatnot, are doing the same thing.
According to the Blue Jays, any fans who want to enter these gates at the Rogers Centre on September 13th or afterwards will need their official vaccine receipt that is issued by Health Canada, along with a piece of government ID that matches that receipt. For those who are not vaccinated for health issues or otherwise, they're going to need proof of a negative COVID-19 test that was administered within 48 hours of game time. Now, self-testing kits will not be accepted. They will only accept rapid antigen or PCR tests that were administered by a healthcare provider. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
The Canadian Football League is postponing a Toronto Argonauts game due to COVID cases amongst the Edmonton Elks. Now, the league says a number of Elks players have tested positive for COVID-19, and the team would not travel or practice until cleared by public health officials. The Argos game against the Elks was supposed to happen Thursday in Toronto. Meteorologist Nick Sternkovich joins us now with the first look at the forecast. And Nick, another hot and muggy day. I'm starting to get used to it, though.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Kelda. We've got heat warnings in effect across the GTA and surrounding areas. We've got temperatures in the 30s, humidex values approaching 40. In fact, today's high, 32 degrees. That's what we're sitting at in the afternoon here in the GTA with the humidex. Felt like 38. Now, to put that in perspective, average highs for this time of year hover around 25 degrees, so well above that. And of course, humidex not factored into those averages. Nothing to speak of in terms of precipitation. We've had lots in the way of sunny skies. Carbon copy tomorrow. Sunshine across the board. There is some light precipitation that's expected to move in as we head through Wednesday, but generally speaking, we're going to stay sunny for the next couple of days. 21 degrees tonight, 32 for tomorrow, humidex of 39. The heat continues. We'll have your full forecast in just a bit.
Thanks, Nick. Turning our attention to the start of week 2 of Canada's federal election campaign, and the Liberals are promising big dollars for healthcare. Today in Halifax, Liberal leader Justin Trudeau committed billions of new dollars for the provinces and territories. But as CBC's David Thurton reports, his message may have been drowned out by a Twitter storm.
In reality, we are leading the G7.
Campaigning with Anita Anand, dubbed the Minister of Vaccines, Justin Trudeau made his healthcare pitch to voters.
That the federal government needs to step up with more funding.
Money Liberals say to reduce wait times, to hire 7,500 new family doctors and nurses, just over $10 billion, on top of the funding already promised in this year's budget.
This is our moment to rebuild a healthcare system that works for all Canadians.
Trudeau made the announcement in Nova Scotia, a province fresh off its own election, which saw health issues take center stage. Nova Scotia voters handed progressive Conservatives a majority and gave the provincial Liberal government the boot. If today's announcement was about Trudeau trying to avoid a similar fate, his message may have gotten lost in the controversy on Twitter over a candidate's attack post. The social media platform marked this video manipulated media.
Would you be prepared to allow provinces to experiment with real healthcare reform, including the provision of private, for-profit, and non-profit healthcare options inside of universal coverage?
Yes. With their social media yesterday, they're importing American-style misleading politics. Let me be perfectly clear. I 100% support our public and universal healthcare system.
The Liberals say that they're standing by their tweet and are challenging the social media platform's decision. The party says O'Toole's comments are posted in full, which voters can go watch to see the Conservative leader's unedited comments. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
The TTC is investigating a video of someone hitching a ride on the back of a subway. The video was posted to social media. It shows a man jumping to track level and then climbing onto the back of a subway train. The man then hangs on as the train travels through a tunnel. He later jumps from the train onto the platform before running out of the station. Now, it's believed to have happened sometime before August 20th. A TTC spokesperson says the stunt is dangerous and illegal. Mostly clear this evening with a heat warning remaining in place. Currently, it's 24 degrees in downtown Toronto, feeling closer to 30. All right, let's go back to Nick now with a look at your extended forecast. And Nick, this heat not going anywhere for at least a few more days.
Yeah, Kelda, we've got this hot weather that's sort of entrenched across southern Ontario for the next few days. We've actually got some relief on the way, but it doesn't come until Friday, and that sort of shows up in our forecast. The first two, pretty much the same headlines as I had last Friday. The change, though, is this: no relief until Friday. So a good week of this hot weather, but there is a bit of relief coming our way as we head through the end of the week. Now, there's a look at the temperature forecast, broadly speaking, across the country, and we've got temperatures through Wednesday and Thursday still showing red here. As we move into Friday, though, it starts to kind of push out a little bit, so that's where we're going to get some relief from this. However, into Saturday, the heat starts to push back in again and will be above seasonal once more. In terms of precipitation, again, generally we've got clear skies in the forecast for the next couple. As we head through tomorrow morning, look for sunshine. Tomorrow afternoon, same story as well. A few spotty showers down in southwestern Ontario. Into the evening and Wednesday, we could see some light showers moving through the region, but doesn't really bring any relief. We don't get that change in our weather pattern until closer to Friday. By Wednesday afternoon and into the evening, once more, it sort of clears out. So good deal of sunshine in the forecast, still lots of humidity, still high heat, and still heat warnings in effect for the next few days. Southwestern Ontario, 20 degrees for tonight. Fog patches redeveloping. We've seen that over the last couple of days. Tomorrow, highs in the low 30s, Humidex values approaching 40, and again, about a 30% chance of seeing some showers. So spotty showers in the forecast for southwestern Ontario. Golden Horseshoe, much the same, although a little clearer, 20 degrees for the overnight, and then tomorrow, high of 32 degrees, Humidex approaching that 40 mark. And there's the relief in the forecast, but not until Friday, where we see temperatures at 24. Kelda.
All right, thanks, Nick. A Toronto police officer who pleaded guilty to 4 counts of discreditable conduct has been demoted but will keep his job. Now, a police tribunal heard that while at the police college in 2019, Constable Michael Fernandez followed female cadets, pressured them to join him for drinks, and asked them inappropriate questions. According to an agreed statement of facts presented to the tribunal, Fernandez had been drinking on all of the occasions involving misconduct. The tribunal ruled that the officer will be demoted and have his pay cut for 3 years. He will also have to attend counseling and submit to random alcohol testing. Fernandez was also warned if he commits another offense, he could be fired. In another TPS tribunal decision, an officer has been found not guilty on 2 disciplinary charges of insubordination and neglect into the Bruce MacArthur investigation. Now, Sergeant Paul Gauthier investigated and released the man who killed at least 8 members of the LGBTQ community in Toronto's gay village. MacArthur was brought in for questioning after a man said he tried to strangle him. That was in 2016, about a year and a half before his arrest. A notice of hearing alleged Gauthier did not record a video statement from the complainant nor photograph his injuries within 72 hours. The tribunal says there wasn't enough clear evidence to rule against Gauthier. Well, the Paralympics start tomorrow, and Canadian soccer star Alphonso Davies is throwing his support behind the refugee team. Davies was born in Ghana and moved to Canada at the age of 5. He tweeted a letter of encouragement describing the team as the most courageous sports team in the world, saying, in part, "Don't focus too much on the rewards and go out there with a smile on your face." And leading Canada's 128 Paralympic athletes as the flag bearer for tomorrow morning's opening ceremonies will be Priscilla Gagne. She competes in judo and spoke about what the games mean to her.
For me, it's very honoring and humbling, and it's very nostalgic. We've all been through a lot over the last 5 years, last year and a half especially, and for me, it represents solidarity and strength and unity and diversity and unity within diversity. So it just represents a fantastic community, a fantastic country of people. With people who have come together in a very special way, in a very big way, and have overcome extraordinary obstacles. And to be a part of that and to represent that is just beyond words.
And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Chris Glover has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.